Welcome to Burnt Out. The Burnt Out podcast shares the stories of firefighters, emergency personnel, and other first responders around the world to create a pathway to save lives. The stories you will hear are real and may be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. And now I'd like to introduce you to your hosts for Burnt Out, Skip O and Jeff the Old Guy.
Thanks, Sean, for that introduction. We'd like to thank all the listeners here, and also we'd like to thank our sponsors. You can go to burntoutpodcast.org and see all our sponsors. Also, the Worldwide Peer Support Organization has supported this podcast, worldwidepeersupport.org. They do 3 support Zoom meetings all over the United States for first responders. That's Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Go to worldwidepeersupport.org and connect with them. I'd like to thank our guest now for coming on, and Chuck Bray. He's from Georgia. Chuck, how are you doing today?
Doing awesome. How are you doing?
Well, I think I'm doing better. I just had a little a stroke this a few minutes ago, and I'll get aside. But thank God for our producer that can edit everything out. Chuck, I tell you what, I'm just really grateful that Ann Jeanette connected us together, and I just you want to give us a brief description of where you're from, your family, and what department you're on.
Yeah, my name is Chuck Bray. I'm 48 years old. I've been in the fire service for 32 years. That's starting very young in the volunteer service. I've been in the Dekalb County Fire-Rescue, which is a very large department outside Metro Atlanta, for the last 16 years. I'm a captain on the Hazmat team, and for the last 5 years, I've been the head lead support peer support coordinator for the department. I'm married. I have 6 kids. I've been married twice. I was married once before. I was married for 12 years, and I had 3 kids. I had Kaley. She's 29. She lives up in upstate New York. I have a son named Luke. He's 27. He lives here in Georgia with me. I have another son, Jase. He lives up in New York. He's 23. And then I didn't have no kids for a long time. And then for great reasons, I started all over. And now I got a son named Jase, is 10, Grady that's 7, and Lilly that's 4. So I'm one of those guys that has kids from 29 to 4 years old. So I actually, a little funny story here, I have grandkids older than my youngest kid. It's the craziest thing to put your kids in the floor and tell your youngest kid not to pull your uncle's hair. It makes everybody laugh.
Oh, that's good,
So,
man.
But yeah, life is good. I've had kids since I was a kid, and everybody says it makes you young, stay young, and it's truly a blessing.
Well, Chuck, I tell you, it sounds like you're a busy man. I know when I had 5 kids and they're all in our house and how busy we were, we was like, we can't wait till they get older. Then when they got older, it says, man, I wish they were back.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I tell you, Chuck, I know you're a firefighter, and there's first responders from all over the place listening to this, and everyday people that listen to this. But let's go back in time a little bit about what inspired you to being a firefighter. Was there any family members or anything that inspired you to be a first responder or a firefighter?
So my grandfather lived in Metro Atlanta, and we used to go to, every summer I would go spend the summer with him. He was not a firefighter, but there was a fire station right down the road. And for some strange reason, I was always, looking at the fire trucks and pointing out the fire trucks. And he started stopping in and asking if I could sit on the fire truck, and then it become a routine. And I think that's kind of what put it in my blood. I have no family members or anything else, but as soon as I got old enough at age 15, fast forward to when I was 15, I started going to the volunteer service. They wouldn't let me do anything because you couldn't do anything till you were certified. But I would go every training night and wash fire trucks, roll hose. Being a pest is what I was doing, but it was just in my blood. I just couldn't get enough of it. And let me tell you, And I like telling people this. I was 27 years old before I took my first drink of alcohol. And the reason is because I didn't want to miss a fire being a volunteer. And I know that sounds crazy, but, all my friends are out, doing things that teenagers do and everything. I had my pager on, had my radio, had my gear in my truck, and I was ready for the next call. So, this is something that's been in me forever. And the fire service probably saved my life and kept me out of a whole lot of trouble that I could have easily got in as a teenager. So, I owe a lot to the fire service, and I'm trying to give as much back as I can.
Well, you did the volunteer. I mean, you still volunteer, or are you at a professional? Are you in a different place now?
I still volunteer for my local service. I moved away from the county I grew up in, but I have a fire station right down the road, and I don't get to do as much because I have the young kids, and me and my wife work opposite schedules, but I do everything I can to help them out. So it's a small volunteer department, and then, and I go help with fundraisers, and I go and try to help them train them when I can, and, give some knowledge that I have from my career side to them. So.
Well, I tell you, I fought a lot of fires with volunteers. I've been on my fire department here in Anderson, but I tell you, firefighter is a firefighter, a police officer is a police officer. When you go into the trenches, I don't ask anybody. I'm just grateful that they're in the trenches with me. So
That's correct.
I appreciate your service and what you do. But, we talked a little bit before. You had some struggles of yourself on the department or with life. You want to go into a little bit of that? Do you feel comfortable doing that?
Sure. So I've always been in the fire service. I've always been the guy to come talk to, and I kind of realized that. It didn't bother me, and I didn't even know really what I was doing. But I was always the guy that, in the fire service or even away from the fire service, I was the brother that people come and talk to, and I was always good with it, But we can fast forward, for it was probably about 7, 8 years ago. We run a call in Dekalb County where it was the day before Thanksgiving, where there was a wreck on an interstate where a young girl was entrapped. She was entrapped by her seatbelt. She got hit from a very high rate of speed from the back end, and the seatbelt was the only thing that was entrapped. It made her entrapped. We had a very small gap of on-scene time with her. We got in there, found the seatbelt, cut it, got her out, put her on the stretcher, and put her in the back of the ambulance, and she was gone. I would say probably 4 minutes of on-scene time with her. And when she left, I almost fell apart. Like, I stayed the rest of the shift, but I was not me. And I didn't know why I was not me. Guys kept on coming up. It was like, because I'm usually that guy. I'm the one who's making jokes. I'm the one who's aggravating the younger guys in the department. I'm the one who is poking and causing, chaos. And, just I like having fun at the fire station. And I was not that guy. And they automatically knew what was wrong, and they kept coming and asked me, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah. And it actually got to the point where I was getting aggravated. I'm like, everybody just leave me alone. So I left and went home. And the next day I called my captain and I said, look, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm not sick. I'm not hurt. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm not coming to work tomorrow. I'm not coming to work the next day. And if I can't get things straightened out in my head, I may not come back to work. And my captain was blown away. He didn't know what to say. So he called my chief, and my chief didn't know, because we had a peer support group, but it was not a very active. They didn't, and I'm sorry, I feel bad saying they didn't even know. That was not even their first thing to think. The first thing they thought was my captain did call me back, and he was like, we have this, I do know we have this PDA, EPD, and I said, are you talking about employee assistance program? And he was like, yeah, whatever them initials are, we do have that. And I was like, well, do you have a number? And I'll call them. That's how much. And I love I'm best friends with the guy was my captain, but he just didn't know. Nobody knew. It was just something that was not thought of. And this was 6 or 7, 8 years ago. So I contacted them, and I was very skeptical. I did not want to contact them because I didn't want to go see a shrink. That was my thing. I didn't want to go to Atlanta. I live 2 hours from my job, so I didn't want to go to Atlanta. I didn't want to didn't want to have to go sit on the couch. I didn't want to, there was a lot of things I didn't want to do. And I didn't want to talk about this. So when I called them, they actually said, "What's your zip code?" And they was like, "Oh, we have a therapist 3 minutes from your house." And I'm like, "I live in the mountains. I didn't even know somebody was 3 minutes from my house." And sure enough, there was a local therapist that I went to. And again, that made me feel better, but I still didn't want to go see them. And when I went and seen them, I walked in, and the first question I asked, I went in there with an attitude, which I shouldn't had. But I went in and I was like, the first question, and she was real nice. She was like, "Hello, Mr. Bray, how are you?" And my first question was, "Have you ever talked to firefighters or public safety?" And she was like, "No." And she was like, "I've talked to some veterans." I'm like, "Well, I don't need to talk to you. If I tell you what's going on in my head, you'll have to get therapy yourself." And she was like, "Well, let's just give it a try." We started talking, and lo and behold, it helped. Even though I had a bad attitude, even though I didn't want to do it, I went and seen her over the next week and a half. I went and seen her 3 days, and it's a funny story. She after the second time I went and seen her, she goes, "What do you think we need to do?" And I said, "I can tell you what I need to do. I've got about 10 more years of service I need to put in so I can retire. I need you to get that magic stick out behind your desk and come over here and hit me in the head, knock some of this stuff out of my head so I can go back to work. That's what I need you to do." So, and she laughed, and she laughed like a funny laugh. And I was like, "Why did she just laugh at me? That's not very professional." And she was like, and I was like, "Did I say something funny?" Again, I was still very emotional about the call, very emotional because I didn't know what was going on. And she was like, "Well," she goes, "I'm sorry, Mr. Bray." She goes, "What's funny is," she goes, "usually I have to meet with someone numerous times to get them to understand what you just told me." She goes, "I don't have a magic stick, but what we do have to do is get this stuff out of your head. We do have to empty your cup to get you to go back to work."
It sounds like you got a very wise therapist off the get-go.
I did. Very, very good. Even though she had never messed with firefighters and EMTs, it was, she knew what she was doing, and she was very good.
So she didn't have two men with a white special jacket with a van to put you in to take you somewhere?
She didn't even have a long couch you laid on and stared at the ceiling. She didn't have ink block test. She just sat across and she didn't even write down everything I said. Everything I'd seen on TV. That's what I thought was going to happen, and it was nothing like that. It was just good. It was just very relaxing. So it was very good for me, for my soul, for my mental health. It was. I strongly. I tell people all the time, don't be afraid. Just go give it a chance.
I tell you, a lot of people, just like you just said, you see stuff on TV or you got it in your mind what's going to happen, and they're afraid to share. They're going to write down stuff. They're going to send me. They're going to lock me away. They're not going to let me come back to work. But it's not like that. You just explained to everybody, we got those fears that keeps us. I always wanted help, but I wanted to do it my way. Well, my way almost got me killed. So I thought, let somebody else do it. It works. But
So, Skip, I tell you one of the biggest things, and now looking back on it, and I try to tell people this all the time when I'm talking to them: firemen, police officers, EMTs, we're in our minds, we are fix-it people, and when we're broke and we can't fix ourselves, it bothers us. And I think it bothers us to a limit that makes us do things like addiction, like drinking, like going off the deep end, you know. So I think the problem we have to look at is we can't fix everything. I don't know how it is at other departments. We get called for toilets overflowing at Dekalb County. We get called for, cats in a tree. We honestly get called for cats, puppies down drains, kids with bad dreams, wash machines shaking. This is the kind of call we get called for. All crazy. Everybody wants us to fix things, and you know what? We fix them. We usually 99.9% of the times we fix things. But when we're broke and we can't fix ourselves, I think that adds to what we to our problems, to our mental health. I think it adds to the stuff we're already going through, is we can't fix ourselves, and I think that's what puts us down in a deeper hole. So, I tell people all the time, we can't fix ourselves. We need some outside help. We need some brothers. We need some sisters. We need some clinicians. We need some places to go to. We need some time away for us to get fixed. We can't fix ourselves. After I got better, that's when I wanted to started helping my brothers and sisters. That led me to, I wanted to join the peer support team to find out, what was going on, and then it started blossoming into where we are today.
Okay. Why don't you go in a little bit more detail about that? Go into when you got started, some of the things you did, and build up from there how your department is today.
So I joined the team after I got better, and got my mind right and everything. I wanted to join the team because I wanted to help my brothers and sisters. So in doing that, the team was active, but it was not that great. I'm just going to be honest with you. I asked to be a very active member of it, and the guy that was over it, he wanted to be the boss. He wanted to do everything, and it was like they were spinning their wheels. They was going nowhere. We had meetings. We talked about the same thing over and over again. So when he left, I seen it was a great opportunity for me to step up and try to take it over, and that's exactly what happened. When he left, it fell up under somebody else's umbrella. I went to that person. I was like, "Look, you have a lot of stuff on your plate." It was during COVID. It was the health and safety that fell up under their umbrella. I said, "You have your hands full with COVID right now. Let me take care of this." I said, "You'll still be over it if I win the Nobel Peace Prize. If I get to meet the president because I do such a great job, you can go accept the reward. I just want to, and she was like, absolutely. And that's where we are today. So some of the things, some of the programs that I started off, retirees, I think retirees are some guys that are forgotten, and they shouldn't be. Back in their days, they had no peer support. It was do your job or go flip a hamburger. If you can't handle this job, go work somewhere else. And these guys, they're in their 60s and 70s now, and they come to our monthly meetings, and I've seen grown, well established, great guys that are well known in the department weeping because of a call that happened 40 years ago, before when I was still in preschool, uh, and these guys need help. So that's one of the things I kind of started up, and now they've actually some of them went and got peer support training themselves, and they're kind of self-sufficient. They meet now. I don't go very often to their meetings. They kind of take care of themselves. They seek out other retirees, and they go to their houses. If they can't come to them, they're taking care of themselves. So that program is going awesome. Some of the other programs I started up is I meet with the recruits. Try to meet with them the first week they get hired, and they go all the way through their recruit class, however long it takes them to get through. And then I meet with them before they go out in the field as a reminder, hey, we have this, and this is what because the reason I meet with them the week they're there is because I want to let them know we have one just in case. Retention. I look at it as a retention thing. If you're having trouble, you're not going to go to your instructor and ask for a hug because this is a lot of pressure as far as studying and EMT school and all this goes, because you're the most instructors are intimidated and everything else, and they don't have anybody else to turn to. So, I'm that person that they can call and try to vent and so I'm that guy that they can call and ask for guidance outside the box, outside the instructor box. So, and then right before they go back out in the operations, before they go out in operations, I remind them, hey, you're about to see DeKalb County is we run a lot of bad calls. It's inner city. We run a lot of rough stuff. So I try to prepare them for what they're about to see and what they're about to experience. So that's what I do with the recruits. One of the things I'm wanting to work on is I want to start some kind of class for families. I think divorce rate is very high in the fire service, and I think it's a communication thing. These guys that work at some of these busy houses, and they're up, we have engines that run 5,000 calls, 6,000 calls a year. And when they come home and their wife wants to go shopping, and they've went to, 2 or 3 shootings and 2 or 3 cardiac arrests and 2 house fires, and they've run 5 or 6 calls after midnight, they don't want to go to shopping at Walmart. And I honestly think it's a communication breakdown. Wives, spouses, they just, all they know is you got a day off and I want to spend time with you. And the firefighter, they just want to take a nap, and I think that's what I want to do is I want to be that guy that says, you know what, he's not lying. He works at station so and so, and they run. So I'd like to be that bridge to teach family members of these brothers and sisters that, hey, it's rough. They need a couple hours when they come home before they go cut grass, before they go out shopping, before they do whatever.
That's good. The worldwide peer support, we thought the same thing when we created that. They forget about the families. People go get treatment, guys, firefighters, military, police, but what about the families? On Thursday nights at 8 p.m., there's a Zoom meeting for families on the worldwide peer support. Also, it's a small group and it's building. So anybody that would like to come and join that, Chuck, your families, if you want to interact with that and help out with that, you're more than welcome to. I can connect you to some people. You can help out with that.
Awesome.
But what I found out, whoever comes up with the idea doesn't matter. We got to carry the mission. And ideas come, thoughts go every day in and day out. But who's going to take that baton and keep carrying it? And when you get tired, you got to pass it. And that's kind of what we got to realize as a first responders and families. We can wear ourselves down, but at the end of the day, we can't save everybody or anybody sometimes. And we got to realize we got to reach out for help. So is the families. When you talked about the family members wanting to go shopping to Walmart, that's exact. You were telling my story and another firefighter story. His wife was telling me he's on the rescue unit, busiest. They're busy. He comes home. She goes, he comes home, he lays in the chair and he don't get up for a couple hours and he won't listen to me. It's like, we understand. Yep. So what I'm saying, I've heard that from a lot of other different departments around the United States and other countries. We're all in the same in doing that. But there's something else that you're doing, and it has something to do. Was it thin line canines are involved in that? I think. Would you like to go into that and kind of name drop that those people, and then kind of say what you're doing right now with that?
So I went to FDIC this last year, and of course, being the peer support coordinator, I went around to all the booths that had anything to do with mental health or treatment facilities, and I had my wife and my kids with me. My kids had their little turnout coats on, so they were pretty much the star of FDIC anyhow. But we turned the corner at one of the booths inside the stadium, and there was 2 beautiful golden retrievers laying there. I think it was Moose and Judge, yep. And from Thin Line Service Dogs. And of course, my kids made a beeline, and I was already heading that way too, because I know that service dogs of that caliber is one of the best things that a peer support, that mental health can have. So I went over there and started talking to them, and so I've been looking for a service dog for the department. I'd already dropped some names or dropped some ideas in the heads of our upper brass, our chiefs and stuff. They kind of liked it, but they was kind of questionable and all this good stuff about how it worked and all that good, the ins and outs of it. Some of the chiefs were like, I know about this. You make it happen, and we're gonna make it happen. Some other ones was like, yeah, we need to get some fine details. So when I started talking to Thin Line, it was like I was put at FDIC for a reason. That's for sure. So long story short, I'm in possession of Patty. Patty is she was born on St. Patrick's Day. She's named after her. Her real name is Patricia. Last name is pretty rough. I don't want to mess it up by all means, but Scaduto. She's named after an EMT that passed away in January from the cleanup of the World Trade Centers. So Thin Line always names all their canines after fallen firefighters, EMTs, and police officers. Uh, so her real name is Patricia, but we call her Patty because she was born on St. Patrick's Day. Uh, she is wonderful. I take her to the fire station with me every shift now. She's at 4.5 months old. Most most golden retrievers are jumping 4 foot high and jumping up in people's laps and running around crazy. Patty is the most loving dog in the world. Anybody that comes in, she comes up, puts their head in the lap. She does exactly what she's supposed to do. She loves on people and she lets people love on her. And that's exactly what her job is. So I'm looking forward. I've not had I only had her for 2 weeks now. I've not had an incident where I've had to have a CISM or a debriefing because of a bad call. It's coming up because I have one about every 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm due for one. But so I've not had her in that predicament yet. But I know that she is going to do exactly what she's supposed to do at 4.5 months. When she gets a year old, I can only imagine how great she's going to be.
I tell you, Ann, Jeanette, and Wayne, who run that organization, are great people. They got a servant's heart, willing to do whatever they can to help somebody. And she always calls and checks on me and my wife because my wife's going through some things. And just say, hey, just call and see how you're doing. So, man, I'm so glad that you got the opportunity to get one of those. I call it four-legged angels.
That's exactly what they are.
I think Aunt Jeanette says, yeah, she Patty can go around and sprinkle her golden sprinkles around everybody.
Exactly. I'm telling you, she is. It is amazing. So the one of the big reasons I wanted we have a state peer support group here in the state of Georgia, and they'll go out, they teach classes, and they're one phone call away, and they have 2 Great Danes, and I wanted a service dog, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't want a horse. My house is,
Yeah.
I mean, they're just. I love both of their names is Bonnie and Garth, both the Great Danes. I love them to death, but I was like, I just don't want to. I don't want to. I mean, a 700-pound,
Yeah.
So I was hoping I was going to do what I had to do, but I didn't really want a Great Dane, and I was so happy when I seen, when I met Anjanette and the retrievers.
Well, Chuck, I tell you, we're winding down a little bit, and I know there was a
Okay.
lot more we talked to, and we're going to bring you back on again. But I want to you had something you want to shout out at your administration. Do they back you in everything you do for peer support and stuff?
Let me tell you what, my administration is wonderful. They support peer support 100%. Mental health. There's pretty much nothing I hadn't asked for that they have not somehow given me or made it happen. They know we work for a very busy department. They know we run a lot of bad stuff, and they know that it's an issue. They know it's not been addressed in the past, and they give everything 100% towards what we're doing now. So it's
That,
a very good blessing to have that 100%. That 100% that they give us is a blessing, and
that's great.
I hope other fire departments can follow in their footsteps because these brothers and sisters, they need it.
Absolutely. I tell you, you got a lot going for you. When you have your guys back in your administration, got everybody in line, it makes it a little bit easier when you have to deal with that tough stuff.
Yes, sir.
But
Yes, sir.
there's somebody right now, Chuck, that listen to this podcast. Might be from the military, might be a police, firefighter, or a doctor, nurse, or somebody just lost. They might be a drinker sitting there alone in their squad car, or after a bad run at 2:00 in the morning when all their crew goes to bed and they're up by themselves. They're lost. They don't know which way to go. You got 30 seconds. What are you going to tell them?
2 quotes I always tell everybody, and it's one of them is very generic. It's okay not to be okay. I'm going to get that tattooed on my arm. And that is the most true. It's okay not to be okay. We don't have to fix ourselves. Reach out, get some help. The other thing I tell everybody is turn to a brother, not a bottle. That is one of my biggest things. Is at the middle of the night when you can't when you can't unsee what you've seen, don't go to a bottle of pills. Don't go to a bottle of alcohol. Turn to a brother. Call. If you don't have a peer support, just call one of your brothers. Call one of your sisters. I'm sure they'll answer that phone. They'll talk to you. So whenever you think that you have to go, then the only way you can get away from what you're seeing, what you're thinking is turn into a bottle, turn to a brother. We're
That's good.
always here. That's the beautiful thing about public safety is is a brotherhood.
Okay, Chuck, you made a couple quotes you'd tell somebody. Is there anything like a quote, a verse, or something that resonates in your heart or mind when you're going through a tough time, or you need that comes to mind for yourself?
Just get help. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to ask. We're all going down this road together. We all run the same calls. Some people process stuff better than others, but we've all experienced the bad stuff together. We all know. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. That's it's again, it's okay not to be okay. And brotherhood is still strong. There's some people that don't believe in it. Brotherhood is still strong in all public safety, and we're here for each other.
Absolutely. Well, Chuck, I appreciate you coming on the show today. You did a good job, and we're going to have Chuck on later on in the year to come and share some other things, different topics, and where he's at now with his four-legged angel, and where he's at 6 months from now. So, Chuck, thank you again for coming on here. And we'd like to thank all the listeners for coming in, tuning in. If you need to talk to us or get a hold of Chuck, just reach out to burnoutpodcast.org, burnoutpodcast.org. Message us, and I can connect you with Chuck. If you don't forget about our Worldwide Peer Support Zoom meetings, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then there's two meetings on Thursdays, one for the families and one for the first responder. So until then, everybody go home tonight, shut your phones and radios off, and get some sleep. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Burnout. Burnout is brought to you by the Worldwide Peer Support. You can visit Burnout Podcast at burntoutpodcast.org or visit Worldwide Peer Support at worldwidepeersupport.org. Your hosts for the Burnt Out Podcast are Skip O and Jeff the Old Guy. Produced by Sean P. Neal. A MyPodcast.media production.